Hey y'all, it's Jen. Welcome back. Today I'm sharing with you 3 of my favorite dessert recipes. With the 4th of July coming up this weekend, we all know that the dessert table has got to be on point, even if we're not going to gather like we normally do. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. Alright, the first thing I am sharing with you today is a honey bun cake. This recipe was given to me by a wonderful lady that I used to work with. So, warning, and up front, this cake is delicious and addicting, and you may not want to share it with anyone. So, here I have 1 cup of buttermilk, 1 cup of brown sugar, 4 eggs, 1 yellow cake mix, a half a cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 3/4 cup of vegetable oil. Alright, so in a small bowl here, I'm going to mix up 1 cup of the brown sugar and the teaspoon of cinnamon, and then I will set that aside to use later. Alright, and next I'm going to prepare the cake. To my stand mixer, I am adding the cake mix, buttermilk, eggs, sugar, and oil. Alright, so anytime I bake, I always rub my dish down with butter, and this obviously keeps the cake from sticking to the pan. Alright, and now it's time to pour the cake batter up in my 13x9 here. Oh, and remember that cinnamon and brown sugar from earlier? It's time to add that to the top of the batter, and then I'll take a butter knife and mix that all around in a nice swirling motion. And then I forgot to mention, I did preheat my oven to 350. We're going to bake this cake for about 30 to 40 minutes. Alright, after the cake is finished baking, it's time to make the glaze to pour on top. That will consist of 1 cup of powdered sugar and a couple of tablespoons of milk and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Alright, and the last step is to pour the glaze onto the top of the cake, and then try not to hide in the closet with the entire cake. This cake is so moist and delicious, you guys. It is amazing right out of the oven, or you can even eat it chilled. Alright, the next one I got for you is an all-American classic, peach cobbler. Here I have 1 30-ounce can of sliced peaches in syrup, butter, baking powder, cinnamon, milk, sugar, and flour. This is amazing on like a cooler summer night with a scoop of home-style vanilla ice cream on top. OMG. This particular recipe came from Pinterest, and it definitely tastes just like Grandma's. I will link it below for you guys. So I should have used a 9x13, but one was dirty and one is MIA, so I'm using the smaller one. So here I have melted a stick of butter, and now I'm going to open up my peaches, and I'm going to separate the syrup from them. You will use the syrup later in the recipe, so do not throw the syrup away. Next, we will go ahead and mix the dry ingredients, which is 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of flour, and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And then I'm going to mix that to combine. All right, now the peaches are going to go in the dish with the butter, and then I'm going to mix up the other ingredients into my bowl. That will consist of the 3/4 cup of milk and the syrup from the peaches. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and pour this batter here over the peaches, but wait, we're not done. All right, so now we're going to make a topping with half a cup of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then we're going to shake that all over the top of the cobbler, and that makes a nice crust, I guess you could say, on top. Delicious. And now, after I get this done, we're going to go ahead and bake this on 350 for 45 minutes or until the top is browned nicely. Doesn't that look amazing? With that ice cream on top, well, it was surely amazing. If you have ever had Paula Deen's Not Your Mama's banana pudding, I don't even have to begin to tell you how delicious this recipe is. If you have not had this recipe or made this recipe, what are you waiting on? Oh my goodness. This has to be the #1 requested thing that I take to certain potlucks and get-togethers. It is just as the title of it describes. It is not your mama's banana pudding. Not knocking the traditional banana pudding, but anyway, you'll see. Let's get into it, guys. Alrighty, so the ingredients that you're going to need is going to be, well, the recipe calls for a 5-ounce box of French vanilla pudding, but they do not make a 5-ounce box in French vanilla, so I end up getting 2 of the 3.4-ounce boxes, and I just use 1.5. You'll also need 2 cups of milk, whole or 2%. I usually have 2% on hand. You will need a can of sweetened condensed milk here. And you will need an 8-ounce thing of cream cheese, which I have already allowed to sit out on my countertop and soften. You need 12 ounces of whipped topping. This is 16 ounces, so I'm just going to try to eyeball it and leave 4 ounces in the container here. The recipe calls for between 6 to 8 bananas. I have 5 because I like more custard than bananas in mine. And then you also need 2 boxes of the Pepperidge Farm Chessmen cookies. These cookies make all the difference, especially like the next day after they've kind of softened a little bit. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and mix up the French vanilla pudding. That looks about right. All right, and then we're gonna add the 2 cups of milk. And I made this recipe before with just the original vanilla pudding mix, and it did not come out the same. So the French vanilla definitely makes a difference if you were wondering. All right, we're gonna give this a good whipping. All right, and I know you really can't see a whole lot of what's going on right now, but I am gonna go ahead and put the pudding mixture into this large silver bowl here and move on to the next step and let that sit to the side for a moment. All right, I'm not even going to clean my bowl because all this stuff is gonna end up being mixed together in a moment anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour in the sweetened condensed milk into my mixer here. have made this recipe so many times. I swear I think I could do it in my sleep. Now we're gonna go ahead and add our softened cream cheese. Very important to soften your cream cheese first, or this mixture will be lumpy. All right, now we're going to mix these two ingredients together. Alrighty, now that we have that done, we are going to mix these two mixtures together. So this is the cream cheese and the sweetened condensed milk mixture, and we're going to put that in with the pudding mixture here. And then we are just going to mix these together. That is looking perfect. Delicious, delicious, delicious. Okay, now we are going to mix in the whipped topping. And like I said, we're going to try to leave about 4 ounces in this container because all we need is 12. And so you want to be very careful. You also want to set this in your refrigerator and let it thaw some, because I did this and it's still frozen in the middle, but that's okay. It doesn't take long for it to start thawing once you mix it anyway. That looks about right. So you're gonna wanna fold this in because you don't wanna really break apart the whipped topping too much, because it'll just be runny. So I wanted you guys to see what this looks like after I get it all mixed together. I could eat this entire bowl just like that. All right, I'm going to set that aside and we're going to start building our pudding. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a layer of cookies on the bottom of this 13 by 9 by 13. This thing has been working double duty the past couple of days. Now, I'm a little bit OCD. I have to have my stuff sitting right, but it usually ends up moving, so it is what it is. Now we're going to go ahead and cut up the bananas. And the reason that I waited until now to cut up the bananas is because we all know bananas turn brown really quickly, and I like to wait until the very last minute before I pour the pudding mixture over the bananas to go ahead and cut those, so that gives them less time to be exposed to the air. All right, so now I've got the bananas all cut up into the dish here, and I'm just spreading them out so they will be nice and even inside. And then we're going to go ahead and pour the pudding mixture on top of that. And I always feel like it's a lot of pudding, so I will usually leave some out and put into a separate dish for us to have for later. My husband particularly loves to just have some pudding in a bowl. It's pretty good. The first time I ever had this banana pudding, this particular recipe, my godmother made this after my mom passed away. It's been 10 years ago now. She brought this over to our house, which we had so many neighbors just love on us for days after all of that. And she brought this over, and I just couldn't get over how pretty it was, and it was also so delicious. And so ever since then, I've been making this, and I've memorized it, and I think that you will enjoy it too. All right, That looks pretty good. And then I have some left over to put into a bowl here once I scrape it down for us to snack on later without all of the extra stuff. Or you can use, I think in the past I've used some of the leftover cookies and just used it to dip it in and stuff. All right, so the last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take our last 4 cookies that are left in the other bag, and then all but 8 cookies out of the other chessmen bag, and we're gonna put a layer on top. All right, you guys, that is literally all there is to this dessert, and I cannot tell you how delicious it is. I'm probably gonna have a piece of it like right now. All right, my friends, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching me make these delicious desserts. My family definitely enjoyed eating them. If you love these types of videos, I hope you will subscribe and join our fun here. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if this video was helpful, and until next time, keep them fed.